myself to their family. My brother from another mother, Secretary Castro. Thank you, brother, for that. Listen, look, that's right. We're going to be brief. Here are a couple of truths. One of those truths is, and this is unfortunate for the rest of the country, that we had our version of Donald Trump and climate deniers by way of Rick Scott 7 years before the country died, right? We have a governor who, by his own edict, said that you can't mention global warming or climate change in any state document. Never mind that on a non-rain day in Miami Beach, we're closing down streets due to high tide, a natural occurrence. Right. Yet we can't talk about it in the state of Florida because the governor's a denier, right? Doesn't exist according to him. It's a double sin, right? Because we know that Florida, being a state that's majority underwater, right, below sea level, right, that we are at the epicenter of the impacts of global climate change. This is one of the things that makes Paris so disheartening. But the other thing that makes it disheartening, y'all, is that there is an economy in standing up and pushing back and fighting back on global climate change and building a more resilient Florida. Think of the jobs that can be created, right? If we decided that we were going to build a plan to make Florida resilient in the space of, I don't know, raising ground levels, building pumping stations to move water away from people and property. How about investing in new energy like solar? Right? We are the Sunshine State. It ought to mean something to be the Sunshine State. But there are good jobs in leaning into solar energy. Earlier this week, I broke ground on a 120-acre solar farm that's going to triple the amount of solar and solar energy that is produced in our city. With the state's capital, and what we're doing there can be scaled all across the state of Florida. And guess what else? Those are jobs you can't ship overseas. It takes a man or a woman to get up and to do that work. We have a governor and a legislature and basically Tallahassee controlled by Republicans who refer to our public education systems as failure factories. They refer to our teachers as evil. Teachers who do the most difficult work known to man. They shape, mold, cultivate, inspire the minds of our children. Our most important investment, right? Right? So what we ought to be doing, right, is if we had a governor who actually believed in investing and developing the next generation workforce, we would put shop and apprenticeships and woodwork and mechanical and electrical back in our high schools. So that folks, that's right, so that folks who may not be on a college-bound track, they can get a skill that they can monetize and they can go to work and they can make a living for themselves and for their families. They should be able to do that. We have a governor in the state of Florida who calls himself the jobs governor. He does. But I'm going to tell you, the governor's right. He has to be the jobs governor if in the state of Florida you got to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. He better be the jobs governor. Because the truth is that 47% of working adults, families in this state, are not able to make their month's-end obligation. They're literally trading between what bills they can pay before something gets cut off. And then they move money around and they make another payment before something else gets cut off. We're the 3rd largest state in all of America. Our North Star shouldn't be any job that pays any wage so that you can take credit for bringing jobs into the state. No, the jobs we should be recruiting are jobs that pay people money and wages with dignity. And wages with dignity mean that you can pay your bills and that you could maybe take a vacation once a year. And that maybe you can get access to health care. Why? Because our governor decided to turn back to the federal government resources that could have insured 1.5 million of the most medically needy people in our state. Who does that? Who does that? Right? This governor does that. But let me tell you, you can say it, I can't. But let me tell you something else about that. It was a double offense. One, it's offensive that you wouldn't do everything you can to make sure people in our state have access to life-saving health care. But it's a double offense because over the 7 years of this governor's administration, that's been $51 billion sent back to Washington, D.C. Had we $51 billion. Could you imagine the jobs that could have been created out of that? Not to mention the healthcare that could have been provided, but think of the nurses, nurse practitioners, doctors, the secondary economy that could be created by that money being rotated and spent in goods and services throughout this state. I'm reminding y'all of the story of the Maasai tribe. Some of y'all may know this. The Maasai tribe, an East African tribe that historically is known for demonstrating excellence in all things. And what they're most known for is the fact that they greet one another in a very profound and simple way. When they encounter each other, how you and I may say, "What's up? How you doing? What's going on?" They say, "And how are the children? And how are the children? And how are the children?" Because they're a community that understands that they're measured by how the children are doing. That's how their greatness is measured. Are our children set up for success? Are we pouring into them? Are we inspiring them? Are we providing them the education that they need to then make a way for themselves? And in this state, if we had to be honest, if we had to be 100% honest, we would have to admit that the children are not well. The children aren't well because their parents don't have health insurance. The children aren't well because the adults in their household cannot afford to get sick. Do you know what it means not to afford to get sick? You can't afford to get sick because you can't afford to miss work. You miss work, you don't pull down your wages. You don't pull down your wages, you can't put food on the table. Right? I know it well. I grew up in a household with a mother who was the hardest working woman I know. She was a school bus driver for Dade County. And then when we got rid of summer school, she took a job as a presser and a dry cleaner. In the hot summers of Miami. My daddy, a construction worker. I'm one of 7 kids, all boys, 1 girl. My baby sister. She works for the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm so proud of her. I really am. I'm the 5th of those 7 kids and the first to graduate from high school and the first to go on to college, and to see my brother and sister come behind me and do the same thing. I know what it means to see intergenerational poverty interrupted. I know what that means. I also know what it means to have a praying grandmother who every morning would take her olive oil and build a cross on our forehead and send us out into the day with an anointing. And before we would cross the threshold of the door, she would say, "Boy, go to school, mind your teachers, get your lesson, and one day bring that education home." She said, "Bring it home for your little brother and your little sister who don't know what it is yet. Bring it home. Bring it home for that little boy down the street that you play with. God knows where he's going to end up. Bring it home. Bring it home for your mama and your daddy who get up every day to go work on somebody else's job, to keep a roof over your head, clothes on your back, food on the table. Bring it home." Right? And what she was saying, and I didn't know then, but I know now, is that we were responsible more than just to ourselves. That we're responsible to our family members, our neighbors, our friends, to our community. There was a sense of the collective. The belief that if I went far, we would all go far. That if I did well, we'd all do well. And guess what? What we're doing here today in this rally, in this March for Truth, is reminding each other that we're better together and that we can go further together and that not one of us is self-made. That somebody prayed for